I think culturally as well, we assign more value to having kids in Jamaica.
The pitney boom, the children boom. You know, my grandmother had 14. Both of my grandmothers had 14. Your grandmother had 10. I'm sure Davian's grandmother had another 10, for example.
Yeah, I think.
All right. Look at that end, and then look at these days. The news is saying that today in Jamaica, the population is less than what it should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yardman podcast, I do one.
So wait.
Hold on. He's gonna do the
Yardman
intro.
podcast.
Yeah, sing the intro to it.
Yardman
Podcast.
Yardman podcast. Tell them about the Yardman podcast.
Boom! Davin and Tonil back again with the number one Jamaican podcast in Murcia, Spain.
Number one Jamaican podcast in Europe.
And we're going for the world. And today we have a new person to help us conquer the world. We have Abigail in the building.
Yes.
Abigail, welcome. Abigail is a teacher, a veteran.
Yeah, literally a veteran at this point. I
A
would
veteran
say.
of living in Spain.
She wears many hats.
Yes. And today, guys, before you get on me and my voice, some people can get on me.
Maybe.
Depends on who you are and how you know. We're going to be discussing a few topics, a few sensitive ones. So if you're a sensitive person, this podcast isn't for you. If you
Disclaimer.
are easily triggered,
Yeah, man.
this podcast isn't for you. If you're too woke, definitely not for you. But yeah, recovering from a cold or getting sick. But Abigail, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who is Abigail Leja? Is it
And what is your purpose?
Okay, so everyone says that here. Like everyone pronounces my middle name as Leia, but it's actually Leah.
Leah.
But
How is
my
it
mom
spelled?
tried my mom tried to be a little bit like different, and so she spelled it Leigha. So that's why I get why people say it, because it is an odd spelling for Leah.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's bad for me because in high school I had a friend. His name was Jason Lee.
and it was spelled like that.
Leigh.
Exactly. Lee.
Yeah.
See, Leah. Because it has an A at the end, I guess. She was trying to do something there, but basically.
I think names are very important though.
No, yeah, I think it's really. I think I always thought I liked my middle name a lot because of its uniqueness. Because my last name is a little bit, pretty common.
What's wrong with your last name?
It's just pretty common. Like
What's
I'm
it?
Abigail Marshall.
Ah,
So it's
Marshall.
pretty, like
Marshall.
it's pretty common. It's pretty common.
No,
not really.
compared to Reed.
No, I think both of those are like neck and neck. Like it's not. I don't know. For me, I just felt like I would really like to have a more unique like name. So I've always thought like when I name my kids and stuff like that I would try to do something different, because I don't want them to be, especially here in Spain. You have a
kind
lot of the same names.
Yeah, you kind of give them some name where different will have some kind of meaning, you know.
You have a special blessing though.
Yeah.
You can marry the name that you want to have.
Yeah, this is true.
What do you mean by that, David?
Because we can change our name as a woman. You say, okay, get rid of Marshall. But I don't think I'll get rid of Marshall, because I think that's important also. And also in Spanish culture, you put both. So my kids will be hyphenated. They'll have my last name. And
so you won't take your husband's name?
I will, yes, I think. But I think that just being here in Spain, they will have both either way.
Okay.
Like they'll have those.
Yeah, the kids will have both.
I don't know how I feel about that, Tony.
I like it, like, because I feel like it's like, why should we do erasure? It's kind of nice to continue, like,
of
all
course,
your roots, you have
all your
everything
roots,
kind
exactly.
of
You don't
there,
forget about one name.
And
Actually,
people
like
will,
this system.
will hear, they'll say, oh, you're Marshall, where are you from? They'll ask them that
Yeah,
or whatever,
the
because here in
curiosity
Spain, it's
might
like,
have.
that's not a common last name either, so they'll have a little conversation starter.
That's good. If I marry a Spanish woman, that's gonna be a conversation.
You think they have to be Reed? Y ya está.
That's gonna be a conversation, bro.
Yeah, Davian.
My mom.
It's not so bad, Davian. It's not so bad.
Hold on,
It's not so bad.
you were willing to sacrifice yours?
It's not. It's not sacrifice. It's not really sacrificing. It's joining two.
Exactly, hyphen.
Joining two families together, joining two traditions together. He knows that he has this side. He also knows that he has the next side.
How is that joining two traditions when you adopt the other tradition?
Because
Which
it is
one do
Spanish
you
tradition,
adapt?
too.
You adapt the one that uses 2 last names, and you drop the one that uses only 1 last name.
Well, for you, sorry, Abby, for you, it would be a new meaning. Then it would be a new meaning, something that you're not used to.
Yeah, but like, what if I don't? What if I say no?
I think about the mother then.
Yeah, because also this is
Think
coming
about the
from
mother.
a patriarchal structure,
Yeah.
for sure, and we know that in the Caribbean, I feel like we have a little bit of a patriarchal structure, for sure.
Yes.
Machismo
But,
kind of
like
culture.
yeah, exactly. Like it's not a very like I mean, but also what gets me about that is it is a patriarchal like society, but I feel like Caribbean families definitely have the matriarch as like the center point of the
the
family so
household,
much. You
yeah,
know, the
yeah,
grandma or
For
the mom, and like
Yes.
that is the center point of your family. Like
That
my
is
grandma,
true.
like she had 10 kids. She was always there for everyone. She knows everybody's name, all the grandkids, the great grandkids. And she's like
And
she's the center point. Of the
everything has to
family.
go through her.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's this saying in Spanish: the man is the head of the household, but the woman is the neck.
Exactly. I like
Woman
And
that.
the head doesn't turn; it's the neck that,
That
turns.
exactly, and
Yeah.
I think that it's important because like in Caribbean culture, even with that
Mm-hmm.
whole like patriarchal or kind of machismo structure that we see, women are super important in the family
Yeah,
and the
man.
family structure.
To be
Hello,
honest,
I-
in Jamaica, women are praised.
Yeah.
The mothers are praised. The fathers, the ones that are even there, aren't praised as much.
Yeah. You do see a lot of like, saying, I don't know, like I don't like to think that it's something that is a pattern, but you do see a lot of like, like single parent households and like different things like that. Not just in the Caribbean, but in the US as well. When I came to Spain, that was one thing that I noticed a lot there. I mean, they do have divorce and things like that, but maybe coming from a Catholic country, you just see more 2-parent households overall. Like
yeah, true.
even though it's like we're in a modern like society, yes, divorce is acceptable if you're Catholic or not, it's fine.
But for the most part,
But for the most part, I saw so much more, and so it was like, it is interesting to see that. But I don't know. I think it's just like history, like history, the history that we have in the U.S., the history that we have in the Caribbean. If we go back even far enough, it's like it's linked to slavery. Like
It
we
all
don't have to
goes
go
back
there,
to
but
slavery.
literally, like
Ah,
it is
goes
something
back to
like
the
the breaking of
plantation.
families, the whole like.
Yeah.
That whole structure not really being there or not, being able to exist. So like, it's interesting. But
What do you feel about that? Like the whole Caribbean family structure compared to the Spanish and the American family structures.
yeah, because you've had a chance to see all 3 of them.
And I feel like we've had this conversation a little bit before, like, talking about just the fact that, like, I don't know, in Caribbean culture, it can be so accepted for, like, men to kind of have the pass to do what they want. But a woman's virtuity and her, her value is all tied into her, like faithfulness to her family, her faithfulness to her husband. And like, oh, that's a good woman. Her man is doing this, this, and that, but she stands by his side. That's a good woman, And like, that is kind of like, for me as a woman, it's kind of like,
the pressure.
yeah, it's kind of like that is something that I know my grandmother probably went through. I'm probably sure her mother, her grandmother as well, thinking like that was the expectation, but for me, as like, okay, as we modernize, as we go forward and things like that, we have to try to distance ourselves from some of these things, even if they are something so ingrained in the society, because like I don't want my man to do whatever he wants to do and I'm supposed to just be like with a smile and like, oh, okay, like come back, I love you, like that's crazy to me. I'm like, and so like we look at people like, I mean, I love Bob Marley. I think he's such an amazing person, and he was such a symbol, of like Caribbean for the world, to see.
Yeah.
But
One
even
love,
him, he has his like,
man, everybody have them
skeletons in the
flaws.
closet, and like he's a human, of course. This is fine. But I feel bad. Rita, like she was just there, like
True.
okay.
But
In my
Rita do her
face.
thing too, yeah.
This is true.
Rita do her thing.
She
too.
did.
But one thing, when the Jamaican thing is different, the modernization aspect of it, I think one could argue that it hurts more families than it creates. Gone are the days where say, yo, as a man, you have at least 2 outside kids and your wife will forgive you.
But that's insane. Like that's to me, I find that like there is no reconciliation with that idea in my head, because it's like, why is that permissible?
Accident happen, sometime,
because
hold on, let me tell you. Like for example, because my grandfather, they have that. He found himself in that same problem. All right, I'm not taking up for him, but let me explain his situation. King George, them used to call him. So
But
him
lad,
used to
concubines.
Not King George.
King George,
Like,
yeah,
okay.
King George. So him used to run electric lines, you know, back then in the days in a country and whatever. Sometime him find himself in our post. We must dead for like some 6 months, some 7 months.
He had to be
know?
there. So,
Time away from him family, a long time away from him family, you know. You know, him send back money and all of these kind of things, you know. But yet something such as importance as like stringing up light and running light is kind of important, so
Yeah,
they
of
kind of have
course.
to stay on the side. According to King George, he meet woman, accident happen,
Yeah, man. Him drop off the line.
and Pitney come. But guess what now? When him come back to him house and whatever, him come to my grandmother and him explain the situation. Say, Gwyneth, this happened to me. You know? She vexed for a while, but she understand George.
Yeah. You couldn't, do
I
you
said
think you could
Gwyneth
do
is a good woman, but maybe I'm not a good woman because I would be like, I understand what you're saying, but this didn't happen to you. You
Yes.
made decisions as an
True.
adult to
Facts.
do this or do this. And I
Yes.
understand where you're coming from. You're lonely. You're feeling, like, you want some company, whatever. we understand, like, people have, needs. But at the same time, it's like, that's fine. But that does present to me more of like a base. Like, you're like, oh, well, I guess, like, you're telling me that, like romantically speaking, you love me, but physically speaking, you needed something else. But I don't know. I feel like there should be some respect of this,
I totally agree with you, because if my woman cheat, I'm gone.
Exactly. And that's the thing too.
but wait.
One woman does one thing and then it's like, X out. Like, that's it.
You know what? Let me take that back.
Loyalty has no one
You know,
definition.
I'm trying to justify a situation
yeah.
in my head where my girl cheats on me and I take her back. Maybe
It's hard for men. It's really, really
maybe
hard
if
for men.
no one knows.
So it's so Davian, what you're saying
It's a
to me?
social aspect of it.
Yeah,
for
it's
you,
more
like
about your
society.
ego. It's more about your ego.
My ego and who she does it. There's such a
There's so
lot
many
of
there's so many
nuances. Like, did you enjoy it more?
No, Davian, you don't go into those
No.
questions. If you go into those questions, you're going to hurt
That's it.
yourself.
That's
Those
the
questions
intent.
You're
are what's
hurting
gonna
yourself.
keep you up in mind. Like, all right, say the instance, the next time I bend her over, did you
Jesus.
bend you over like this?
No. Oh, no.
Davian.
But I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, because you're like, it's more of a, like, okay, that is your aspect looking at it, like, oh, the physical was so much. But okay, look at King George here. He's saying the physical meant nothing. I love you.
Yeah, me
You know
love
what I
him,
mean?
love
Like,
him,
it's
love
the
my
it's
grandmother.
Like, it's hard to, like, he loved her. That was his woman. That was
And the
his
thing
wife,
is now,
like,
men are different from women. A woman have to kind of, she have to emotionally have something about you
that's what they say. Women
before she open the door.
emotionally cheat. Emotionally cheat.
You know what?
and
I
men
mean, cheat with them-
physically
yeah,
cheat.
yeah.
So, like, I
Tony,
get
different.
what you're
David.
Tony, I don't. I think that's a lie. Just like how I can, I feel like just like how I can go and see a girl and be like, wow, she's attractive. I would sleep with her, but I would never have anything. I feel women can do that.
No,
as
women
well.
can do it, you know. But I'm talking about
in the scheme of things, like
in the scheme of a default woman, a default woman,
in
a default woman.
You always
If you don't
have-
know
you
woman
always
is
have-
default, you know what I'm saying? But you get what I mean.
Yeah.
But all right, but to the bigger picture, apart from her independent self and his independent self, there is also the children that are a factor.
No, yeah, you should always
So,
think about them.
are
yeah.
you going to break up a family?
structure, like, I mean, and that's the thing too. It's like, it again continues the cycle, because I'm, like I said, my grandmother probably definitely went through this, but she also probably saw her mother go through this. Her children also saw their mother, their father go through this, and so it begins
Might
to
become a
like
kind-
present acceptance of like
Yeah.
perpetuating this cycle, and
What's
it's
it
like
called?
that's when it will never
It's like
end.
it's like manufacturing their consent for
And
this
it's
thing
like
to
this is,
happen.
they say
Yeah.
this is what happened. This is normal, and that's what
Yeah.
normalizes it in the culture. And you say, oh, it's cultural at this point.
It
Like,
is.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
like that's acceptable in our culture because of this,
At
this,
that
or this.
and the thing is at that point in time, because before that things might have been different, but now things are even different.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
at that point in time, such a mindset might have been acceptable. Like nothing wrong. I want pitney.
Yeah.
You know what I say?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's working and he's sending the money back to us and blah blah. blah.
Yeah.
Like
He's
there's
taking care.
Yeah, you know,
I mean, it's
uh,
a difficult thing because again, it's the circumstances of the time. It's the the society at the time.
volume.
The different. We can't really look at it from our point of view today, even though it's like okay, we're just my whole thing is like just like trying to take the steps forward and apply it like new values to the culture as we continue, you know,
so
like
you
as we
want-
continue to evolutionize, as we
No,
continue
no.
to modernize, like to
True.
take steps forward to break cycles. And because would you say that this is something that contributes to the culture? Not really.
Not really.
It might be a part of the culture,
But
but
it
it's
doesn't
not really like
contribute
there's
anything
nothing
positive.
that exactly we're not like benefiting from this.
But you know, for once, I'm going to be the devil's advocate.
Okay.
On this one.
Bumbo clot.
So when that used to happen, right, back in a them time there, the pitney boom, the children boom, you know, my grandmother had 14. Both of my grandmothers had 14.
Bumbo
Your
clot.
grandmother had 10. I'm sure Davian's grandmother had another 10, for example.
8, I think.
All right, look at that now. Look at that end, and then look at these days. The news is saying that today in Jamaica, the population is less than what it should be
Okay.
Yeah.
because of some factors, economical factors, people having less kids, all of these kind of things.
But it's modernization as well, because
That too,
we
and
look at this-
education.
exactly, because you say, oh,
Yeah.
that's maybe not the best thing to do, and also we have so many advances medically as well, because okay, back in the day you have 14 kids, maybe 3-4 of them are gonna die before they're
Well,
5 years old, or
true.
when they're 12 years old they get the mumps or the measles or whatever, and like those
Well,
things
yeah,
happen.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it was
yeah.
like kind of like an insurance policy that, and also we didn't have contraception that was like accepted if we were Catholic or like this or that. There
but
was
the thing is,
religious
was it
aspects
needed
of
back
this.
then? Was
No.
it needed? It was needed to prevent having kids,
Yeah.
but not for like. For
But like in
example-
general, so I see
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
mean. But like it was just like something that was also society looked at as like, no, you don't do that. Like contraception is of the devil. Like you're not supposed to do
back
that.
then,
Like,
we didn't have TVs and Netflix.
yeah, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah,
What are we
What
doing?
are you going to do?
Like,
You didn't have anything to
You
do.
come home and you're like, hey, what's up? Like that's it. But it's like an activity.
There wasn't even electricity. Tony's granddad was busy trying to get
to
electricity.
put the electricity in for
Yeah.
everyone.
My God, yeah, exactly. So
But having those big families, but
Cultural
when they say
shifts.
this, they say, "Oh, we
Yeah.
don't have enough people in Japan, in Spain. Also, they, you
Korea.
know, you get all of
Yeah,
these like
man, we know this,
incentives
man.
if you
Uh-huh.
have like more than 3 kids. I think it's 3 kids
Yeah.
or more is
Yeah,
like a
there's a
big
family.
family. Yeah, you have like discounts in
like a
transportation.
Yeah, man.
For
and, like,
example,
all
the bus
this
is
stuff.
free.
Yeah, exactly.
After 5 kids, I believe something
Yeah,
like
so,
that. The
yeah,
bus
yeah,
is
yeah.
free.
See, you get a lot
Public
of like
transport
benefits
free, David,
and like
after
all of
5
this
kids.
stuff.
Only
No,
5
free.
kids?
It's
Just get the
free.
card.
It's
Just
free.
get the card.
So I just need to knock up 5 women.
No. No.
Knock up 5 times.
Yeah, and then you get free transportation, but they give a lot of incentive because they want, like you said, to improve the birth rate. Italy, Japan,
upon that.
Spain, and now Jamaica. I
Yes.
haven't heard,
Yeah,
but
man.
we
Jamaica
say
as well.
this, but at the same time we have 8 billion people in the world,
Whoa.
and we're saying we have overpopulation
Yeah, man.
problems, and we
Let me tell you
have
now.
Overpopulation.
Don't make
that's
nobody
a
tell
big-
about
environment.
overpopulation, man.
The thing is, it's a
Yeah.
aging population. That's the
This
issue.
is true.
Yes.
We're living
here in Spain,
longer.
specifically Italy as well, they have more people that are, you know, of the senior age in comparison to the people like in the workforce.
Exactly.
So it creates a big strain financially because obviously you have people taking their pensions or taking Seguridad Social and like
Yeah.
all this, but there's not enough people like working and putting the money into it. So
Yeah,
it
man.
does create a problem, but at the same time,
Avoid, yeah.
worldwide we're looking at, you know, environmental impact of like having this many people in the world. We're looking at, we just had a freaking global pandemic. We're looking at like all of these things that seem to be complications of overpopulation, but at the same time countries are saying, please have more kids because we need to have more
so who
kids
do we listen to?
economically.
Who do we listen to?
It's economically but also environmentally, like kind of like how do we do this, you know, like how do we weigh it out?
We do need that message to have kids. Go for it and
Yeah, I don't think
He's like,
anybody.
procreate.
I will have
To me,
7.
My personal belief is that anybody that tell you don't have kids, I don't know. Be careful with them.
Yeah.
Be careful with them. I don't know.
I know people
That's all I
personally
can say.
that say that they don't want to have kids, and some of those people.
No, I don't. No, I don't mean.
but
I
you
don't
say
mean
somebody
like.
telling you
I don't mean like individual. I mean like on a
and
on a macro,
bigger,
on a bigger
bigger
scale.
scale.
government
You know?
figure said
If-
that.
For
Yeah, of
example,
course.
yeah.
But they're not going to say that because that's too like invasive.
They
basically.
won't say it directly, but they will hint at it.
Yeah,
They
see.
have campaigns that they have.
What-
But I know people that choose, they say, I'm not going to have kids because the climate of this world today, like not like the climate, but just like
yeah.
everything that's going on is so crazy that I would feel reckless, like bringing kids into this type of world.
Oh, that's why you should try to change it. You're not just okay. This is happening, and this
I'm
what will
gonna
happen
cop out
forever.
and
Let me
say, no,
just
say-
quit.
yeah.
Yeah, I find that a bit daunting when for me I can't wrap my head around the idea of someone not wanting kids.
Yeah.
And I totally respect anyone that's in that mindset and doesn't want
It's
kids
your
because
personal choice, yeah.
Yeah, man, of
I
course.
respect anyone's personal choice, but for me,
It's hard to fathom.
culturally, I find it a bit selfish as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking about your parents and like
Yeah.
about your family and like all that, like, oh,
Yeah.
they think this is the next step for you, you know, like I agree. I've always been like, I want to be a mother. Like it's not something that I've thought about like, oh, I don't know. I feel like I've always been like, I know that I want to be, but I know that I do have a lot of things that I want to do before that stage in life.
Exactly.
Like I do want to make sure that, because I feel like in the generation before us, maybe people were just like kind of like kids happened, or it was kind of like pushed into not a lot of planning going on, you know? And so I feel like I know people personally and like, you know, childhood wise and stuff that they're like, oh, you know, like I felt really resented, you know, like, or I felt like, oh, I kept my parents from doing this, or this, or like they looked at me like, oh, if I didn't have kids, you know, I could have done this, and this. So it was very important for me to think, oh,
But,
I need to make
you
the
know,
steps, you know, like I want to plan and like make sure I feel, you know, like realized, you know, like I've done what I need to do for myself.
But you
I
know,
think
the next step.
hold on there, Tony. I think culturally as well, we assign more value to having kids in Jamaica because if you're a man, especially of my age,
That's how you are.
when it comes to
Them kind
measured
of
as a
things,
man.
them kind of-
yeah, when it comes to Father's Day and you don't have a kid, there's a
Questions.
societal pressure to have kids and to procreate. But nowadays, all of this is changing, and most people are like, "Oh, I don't want to have kids because I want to travel the world and I want to go to the club when I want to."
I
don't
wanna.
It is a very, we have grown up in a very self-centered generation,
Yes.
I think, for sure. We've had the luxury, I
Yeah.
guess we could
Ooh.
say, of
Luxuries. Let me tell you now. It's
But then we complain.
we
Then
do.
Then we complain
But
so
that's
much
what
about so
spoiled
much
people
shit.
do.
Yeah.
Because we're spoiled. So it's like, okay, we've had not really that many like struggles on the scale of like struggling, you know, like, you know, in 50 years, 100 years ago, people were really like, how are we going to put food on the table? Like for sure. Like there's not any money coming in. Like we got to grow this. We got to like find
that was
this, we have to do
that was
this.
definitely a main factor.
Yeah. More
And I-
survival.
More,
Less-
yeah, it's
less
really, it's more
enjoyment
survival.
or
And the
all of
thing,
this.
I feel like our parents, their generation, the reason why they had less kids than their parents was because of the same survival thing. You know, our grandparents, they could feed.
Yeah, they had the farm or they had the area,
Yeah,
you
they-
know, like it was a controlled space, you know?
Yeah, it was a
community.
controlled
It was a
space.
community.
That too. That's
And,
something that
and
we
sometimes
lost.
and sometimes it's not even that they had such an abundance that they could have so many kids and whatever, but there was always some
Enough.
kind of way or some you know way to have kids and feed them and all that. With our parents now, less.
Yeah.
Our grandparents, they own houses.
See.
Our parents, they barely owned houses.
exactly.
And look at us now.
Yeah, it's the
We
economic structure.
We're fighting to
we
really
should
get
have bought a
here.
house when we
Yeah.
were like 6 months old because
Before
that's
we
the
were
only
born,
option.
instead of
Like
registering for
literally,
preschool, we should have
literally.
bought a house. But that brings the next thing to Tonil. Me and Med say, yo, nowadays, when we come to a first world developed country like this, being poor here is different from being poor in Jamaica. You know?
Yeah, man.
Being poor in Jamaica doesn't mean say I'm going to be hungry
Yeah.
tonight. You know, I know that I'm going to get one meal at least for the day. You know, being poor here means say you're homeless. You're out in the cold that might kill you. You're out in the dangers of society as well. You see me? A man in Jamaica might not live in the best house, but him have something over him head to protect him. And him know say, oh, if him hungry, him can go pick a breadfruit over John yard.
This is true.
Pick a
Yeah,
breadfruit.
like depends
bubble
too,
and
but
pot.
yeah.
You see me? So it's like here, I would rather be poor in Jamaica than poor here.
But wait, Davin.
The weather.
Wait now. Remember, you know, these people have a cushion, you know, if them poor, you know. The government have
In Spain.
what them call it. Yeah.
The
And
welfare things.
yeah, there are ways where you will get help if you're poor here. For example,
I'm
there are
talking
more
about
ways.
object kind of poor, bro. Not like
homeless, like,
yeah,
with the-
homeless
see.
level.
Oh, you mean
a
like
little
with no
mental-
help? With
Yeah.
no
No family,
okay,
no-
then. Okay, that's a different argument. With no
recourse.
help,
See,
then for tell you the truth, brother.
Think about it.
God forbid,
If
but send me to Jamaica. Send me to there.
Exactly.
Send me
At least
there.
the weather's better.
bro, I could.
I will find a key tree.
I know I would survive in Jamaica unemployed.
But
Easier
here-
than I would
yeah.
survive here unemployed.
Yeah.
'Cause
Okay. If we're on the basis of not getting no help.
Yeah, if the government does
Alright.
something, but we still see so many homeless people here, bro.
Yeah,
more
for a
and more.
time, for a time.
What
Because
do you-
because you have to understand now,
Tell you,
David.
there's a part of Murcia when you go around there.
Yeah,
so
man,
it's
and
a
we know
freaking
why.
shanty town, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, man, and we know why.
They put up there with freaking tarpaulings.
Yeah, man, it
and
look like
wooden
any-
structures in Murcia, you know.
Yeah.
But we
And
know,
most
but we
people-
know
and most
why
people
that
don't
vein.
know that exists in Murcia, you know.
I know. I have a way that I go to work now, and there's like some huertas or like some areas that are open, and like near this, like I think it's like an electricity system building or like
The
whatever.
hydroelectric. I
See,
think so.
they have a whole like encampment of people who have built houses, like shacks
Yeah,
and
like
like
some
houses
shan- yeah,
and
yeah.
things like this, and like they're obviously like a community there. They're living there together because like group
Yeah.
of people and everything. But like it's also like I had no idea that even existed until I went that way and I saw it and I was
Yeah,
like,
man.
oh, like this
It's
is
like-
what's happening.
It's
Like
real, it's real.
there's people that this is the true reality of how they're living day to day, year to
And
year.
you know,
Like,
you know why this happened too? The situation of where is two things. Spain is seeing inflation happening now. You know?
ever since
them-
like the Ukraine,
Yeah,
Russian
it's gotten heavier, it's
situation
gotten
a
heavier.
lot more.
It started in
Food is so
2010.
expensive now. Yeah.
Yeah, man, you can. It's as in like I remember when I came to Spain,
so
a
cheap.
bottle of olive oil. You know the big
I
one.
know, I would freak out.
Jesus
too.
Christ!
I was like, this is gold.
15 euros or some 13 euros for
Yeah.
the 2
For a
liter. May I
big
tell
one,
about it?
A
No?
big one. In America, that would literally be like $50.
Ha.
Like, it's crazy.
I like
And
those
now you
Spanish
think you can
shoes.
buy that?
and
I-
now it's like 30
Hey.
or something.
I like how in
double,
America,
double.
in
Hey.
America they use eggs to trap the inflation. In Spain they use olive oil.
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah.
true. And
It's true,
now
it's true,
I
it's true.
saw that they're putting like the little anti-theft on the olive oil.
Yeah,
because people
yeah,
are like
Come on,
stealing
buddy.
olive
Come
oil
on,
because
come
it's so
on.
important.
Olive oil.
It's so important. Like
No,
it's
but-
like that is a key part of Spanish like living.
But
The olive
true,
oil.
man, that's true,
The price
David, that's
has
true.
gone down a bit.
Super,
now.
super.
A little
drop.
bit now.
But-
So, well, I'm never done yet, man. So, the economy, and you have to understand where Murcia is, for example, is a big area where, for example, is what they call it a port of entry. Port of entry.
Cartagena is one of the biggest.
Cartagena.
Yeah, see.
But no, I mean like for immigrants.
Yes,
Spain
yes,
itself.
This is true.
And this is the
See,
south of Spain.
like Italy, Spain, Greece, more or less. Those are the areas that
So
people are coming.
I would
to.
say we are at the top of the waterfall, and then when you go to, for example, you move a little bit north, you see another place where you have less people, and then less people and less. But where we are is at the top of the waterfall.
because
when
it's
it
an
comes to
entry
that.
point, yeah.
It's an entry point. So we're going to see, we basically see more effects of it happening here in Murcia and along the south coast
I mean, I don't know.
of Spain.
Yeah, I don't know.
Also, it's a warmth, bro. Like if you're homeless in Spain, you're not gonna want to be homeless.
Wow,
in the
yeah,
north
yeah,
of
yeah.
Spain.
This is
Because the
true.
winters are rough.
Rough,
But thinking
rough.
about this, like, because we've seen a lot of like migrant people coming from Africa, North Africa, all of that. Here before, I think it was mostly exclusively North Africa, but now
Yeah.
we have people coming from further in like south in Africa, and I feel like when I first got to Murcia, I just felt like so like shocked kind of because it was like obviously it was like super traditional, yes, like nobody was speaking English at all. Like I had been used to being in Madrid or Barcelona where it's like you don't have to speak
yeah.
Spanish, like you're fine, you know. It's not a thing. And then I came here and I was like, oh, this is real Spain, okay. And I just remember being like, where are the black people? Because it was literally like there's no people working in Mercadona that are black.
No.
There's
You've
never
bus
seen
drivers
someone in
that are black.
Mercadona that are
There's
black.
no taxi drivers that are black. And I was just like, I
Not the police
understand-
officers either, yeah.
No, of course not police officers. They don't even have Latino police officers yet. Like, and that's what's like, it's so hard, like, as an American coming here to like kind of assimilate that idea, just because like obviously we have our plethora of problems in the
Yeah,
US,
man.
but we have diversity.
True.
And here diversity is such a new concept because they also had the, you know, the Civil War where they were really closed
Yeah,
off from
yeah,
the rest of the world and all of that. And so immigration in general in Spain, I feel like is barely like 50 years old, you know, like with
it's
people really
new,
coming in,
new.
settling, being like first generation or second generation. You know, we have a lot of Chinese, Spanish people who born and raised here. They're Chinese ethnically, but they're at least one generation or possibly two at this point. The same with like North African people. You can have someone that's third generation here, you know, all of that, but it's still such a new concept for them.
Yeah, I think Alejandra was telling me she was on the podcast recently.
Yeah, I
and
saw.
she was saying that her mom came here from Equatorial Guinea, I think a little bit after the Franco regime.
Yeah, a little, yeah.
And imagine back then.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I really can't
that's
imagine.
My brother.
That's hard.
Imagine back
Like
then.
that.
And she came here and
It'd be a show every time you step
had
out of your
to
house.
get
People are
into the
staring,
system.
looking, you know, like, what is, you know, because when I first came here and I'm
My
like walking
God.
down the street speaking English, people are like, you know, staring upside your head. I always say that, like, people in Spain
Wow.
have a staring problem because in the US, you don't look at people
You don't-
outside
no,
their
wait,
head.
wait,
Don't
wait.
do
If
that.
you're looking
that's
for
not-
problems.
Tony, I never feel that way.
No?
But no, I never feel like people are staring at me. Then again, I
Look
walk-
around
And
sometime.
then they're like,
Take a sharp look around sometime.
I don't know why. I spoke to Glorian about it, and Glorian is like, Devin, because you walk with your head in the clouds like you run the city. And I'm like,
You're just like, la, 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 la.
No, because I'm like, she's like, you're walking with so much confidence, you're not checking. But a lot of particularly black women have told me that they get a lot of stares.
Yeah.
They get a lot more
True,
looks
yeah.
than.
And I mean, for
regular. I'm
me,
like,
I feel like people think most of the time, like, I'm Latina or something like this. This is what people think, like, for the most part. I've
think
gotten,
you're-
like,
they think you're
Brazilian
Moroccan.
or
Yeah,
Moroccan
Moroccan.
as well. I've gotten a lot. So maybe not as much, but just the fact of, like, me speaking English sometimes, like, in the beginning of being here, it was really, like, a factor where people, like, literally just stop and stare, kind of, like,
really?
and I was like, well, this is weird. Like, obviously,
Yeah,
because
of
I'd never
course, yeah.
experienced it before. But then, like, I feel like you guys have touched on this and stuff too. Like, okay, you know, security guards in Mercadona, following
Yeah.
people around, and like just things where you're like, these are such like, these are things that like obviously happen all over the world, whatever. But then you think like, oh, you know, Europe is supposed to be so progressive, and they're like, so like we didn't have we didn't have segregation, we didn't have racism, like whatever. And then they're
It's,
like, then Carnival happens, and you're like,
Yeah.
guys. The
They-
blackface has to stop. Like this is it doesn't matter if it's your history or not. People are telling you it's 2025. Like
It doesn't
we
exist.
need to educate ourselves, you know.
I
And
remember my first time in Mercadona. I was with my ex-girlfriend at the time, white woman.
God.
You know, I had a colony. Tony, you know what colony means.
I was like,
Colony is a group of bunnies.
okay.
So
So
nobody-
you went through. You
yeah,
went
so
through. See.
I went through a phase. And I was in Mercadona, and this Spanish woman comes up to me, and she's like, "Me gusta tu pelo." I'm like, okay. At that time, I didn't know.
You didn't really,
any-
yeah.
And I was like, no hablo español. And she's like, oh, I really love your skin. You will never get skin cancer. And look at me.
And you're like,
What are you
thanks for
supposed
the
to say?
compliments, but also weird flex. Like, okay,
How
like
do you start to
And
accomplish
my
like
girlfriend
that?
is there just looking at me.
she's like, don't like this at all.
She's like, shit, what
Yeah.
do we fucking do? She doesn't know what to do.
And
I
that's the
don't
thing
know
too.
what to do.
Oh my
I
God.
don't. It's not as though I'm thinking that like Spanish people are just like these horrible people.
No,
I think
no,
it
no.
comes from a lot of just like we said, just it's new. First of all,
It's ignorance to this kind
it's
of thing.
ignorance as well.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and it's not willful ignorance either. But
sometimes
the
I really
same thing,
don't
it's like
know.
you know the internet exists. You know,
Yeah.
like you could do the research, blah blah. But it's just like it isn't seen as a problem here.
Yeah.
You know, like there are such more like America's like woke. Like you need to be woke. All of this. Spain is like we're just chilling, like we're kind of just like doing our thing. Like they're not, they're much more relaxed, you know,
And try to enjoy the
culturally,
sun.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
they're like. I don't think it's like a thing that's coming from a bad place, but at the same time, it can
That's
be so
the
like
worst part of it.
triggering. Like you're
That's
just
the-
like, oh my god, please stop. Like
And then there is also this just new mentality on the internet where people are just disregarding people's struggles and saying that you're playing a victim.
Yeah.
And you're being a victim.
yeah.
Yeah, man.
And-
them
But it's like
say-
I'm speaking from my experience,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
like
and
that's very subjective. Like,
yeah, yeah.
Every time I see that, I'm like, come on. Even fucking today, I was scrolling and this guy was doing some street interviews. I think I shared it on the podcast page. Street interviews of some black guys saying how they feel in Spain. And in the comment, I know for a fact there's gonna be someone saying, "Oh, here we go, another black victim."
Yeah, oh,
yeah, or
oh,
go
Blacks,
home,
yeah.
go home,
or their
or
famous
whatever.
phrase, a llorar a la llorería.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I hate seeing because. Say for instance, tomorrow you stub your toe on the street and you post about it on the internet. People are like, "Oh, why are you being a victim?"
It's
I'm
not
like,
so bad.
Well, they should have fixed the fucking pothole on the street.
Exactly. Exactly. That's a good metaphor, I think, because you're like, I wouldn't be in this situation if we did like a structural retake, you know, like yeah, I feel like this is my personal experience. This is my like, this is my life. If I feel this way, it's my right to feel this way.
Exactly.
And I feel like people do a lot of that. Like, and I don't want to say victim blaming, but kind of that kind of vibe, saying like, oh, you're making this into something that it's not. But if this is how I feel about a situation and how it's affected me in my life, how can you tell me differently?
Because they simply they also don't understand, and they refuse to understand. And it's one of these things, like, personally, I think we're all guilty of it. Like, if you hear someone complaining about something over and over and over and over and over again, you get desensitized and you don't want to hear about it anymore. But that doesn't change the fact that this person is still struggling with this problem over and over again.
See,
and you might have listened the first time, the second time,
but it gets harder and harder as time goes on. Which, yeah, it's human nature. Like, I do understand that, but it's just like, I don't know. For me, it's just like, I also feel like when I have, had this conversation or commented on some of these things that I've seen, like with Spanish people, they do seem receptive for the most part. Like, I've had like with, like when I was working at the Escuela de Idiomas, and we had a lot of like students in the university age, or like students that were like, working age and all of this. And we would talk about some factors or some, like some heavy hitting conversations and things like that. And that was one of the things that I like to highlight, because I was like, it's something that I keep coming into contact with. And I just feel like people are just not realizing it, maybe. And so I want to see like what they have to say, And so, but they seemed pretty receptive to it. A lot of them just said, I never thought about that. Or I felt like that was not related to like our history or our existence. And then I'm like, okay, I can understand that. But at the same time, like, if it's something that does exist in the world, and then the people that are actually affected are the ones telling you that this bothers them, then what does it cost you to take that step to not do it, or to educate yourself further, or to make a decision to like remove it from your, like,
or just say it's already there
or whatever. So,
it's in my vocabulary, it's in my culture, that's it. And I just leave it.
It's also another thing, Tony. Like, let's say, for instance, there's a crack in your wall. You can either fix the crack, or you can put a picture frame over it. Which one's easier?
The picture frame.
The picture frame.
So they put the picture frame in and pretend like there is no crack there,
because
and
there's
the crack
no
isn't expanding.
Ill will. Exactly. See, like, there's no ill intention. So like, I'm not doing anything wrong, but you're also not helping to like ultimately solve the problem, or to make the bigger, the bigger shift, basically.
Because when they go to the neighbor's yard, America's yard, they see a big crack there.
Yeah. They're like, okay, first of all, you guys cannot say anything to us.
Like, pointers, crack here, crack
they're
here.
Like, the house is split in two.
Exactly.
Like, literally.
And they're like, we have a tiny one, but we have a nice picture to cover it. So
This is true.
Focus on the problem, and they don't see it as a problem. And maybe because the black people here need to be doing more, I would say, as well.
And I think it just needs more time as well. More time, more people speaking out or saying something about, because again, nowadays you could go into a public school in Spain and you're going to see people, a mixed group. You're going to see people from a lot of different parts of the world, basically. That probably wouldn't have happened 20 years ago, so it's like now it's becoming more of a conversation, because now there are more factors of like, oh, people that are there, like, and they're saying, hey, like, we don't like this, or hey, this is not okay for us, but we also feel Spanish because we're here, we're growing up here, we speak Spanish, like, so you can't make that decision for us, like
that well, I understand.
But then there is the dominant culture will win out. The dominant Spanish culture, and Spanish culture is a very strong culture, so it will win out against these minorities unless there is more of them in the schools. Because, for example, Alejandra said it on our previous podcast, and that's why she's going into these schools and trying to educate the kids and the teachers to see.
But that's a step in and of itself.
That's a freaking brilliant
big step.
But then again, my flatmate came home the other day, and I told you the other night. I'll tell Tony. I didn't tell Tony about this one actually, where he told me like, the kids had to make like an advertisement in English, right?
Yeah.
And they were doing a detergent product.
You know where this is going.
Go ahead.
And they had a black kid in the group. And
that's the thing too. Poor kid. Like, come on, guys.
Exactly. And for the people that probably are slow and can't get there, I'll tell you.
My God.
They basically said the detergent, they used it to clean, and their concept of dirty would be the black kid, and they had like a transition or They
And
use
that's
the
so
detergent
sad
on
for the
black
kid
and-
too, because
yeah.
you know he feels like probably uncomfortable with the concept, but also like you don't want to like stir the pot.
No,
You don't
wait,
want
wait,
Yeah,
to.
there's
wait,
a
wait,
lot of kids
wait,
who
wait.
feel this
That
way.
could also be it.
Yeah.
But we have to also live in a world where the kid might not know that this
This is a problem, yeah. See, or like problematic.
the
situation.
kid might just feel like these are my friends. I grew up with them. They love me. I love them.
See?
What
You know,
they're doing,
this is
there's
true.
nothing wrong with
And you
it.
know, to be honest, Davian, sometimes I usually don't like blaming the kids. I'm not
I'm not blaming anyone,
Yeah,
bro.
I'm not
I'm
saying
just-
you're blaming the kids, you know. But sometimes I just say that it's not their fault. Sometimes all of these things are kind of like learned behavior.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nuances to it. Like
Yeah,
there's
because them heart clean at the end of the day. Them intentions pure more time, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just that, you know,
There's so many more factors nowadays too. Like kids' innocence is so fragile nowadays. I feel like, especially working with kids and all that, I literally, like, I feel so upset when I see that shift from where they go from like a real innocent kid, and then you
And
just
then,
see
yeah,
that
yeah,
shift,
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
like
I've
it's
seen
the
it. I've seen it
internet,
so many
it's the
times.
all of it, and it's just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's such a heartbreaking moment because you're just like innocence gone, you know,
Gone.
like childhood kind of coming to a close, and I feel like it's just happening earlier and earlier,
Earlier and earlier.
nowadays because there's just so much exposure to
yeah,
so much.
exactly. And the thing is now, there's so much exposure to being aware to this. Be aware to this. When you're talking
get
to a kid that's
overwhelmed.
6,
You get
7 years old,
overwhelmed, yeah.
it's like, I just want to be a kid, you know.
And it's a lot. I
It's
think
a lot for them
lot.
also. It's a lot for them also.
Yeah.
But values should be values and certain things should be taught in society.
And this is what I
At
feel
the
like
end of
we're
the day.
basically talking about microaggressions. And because
Yeah,
it is
man.
micro, it's like, it's harder to bring it to the forefront and say like,
Mm-hmm.
this is damaging, you know, like, but like a conglomerate of microaggressions is a problem, you know? And so like
Yeah,
culturally
yeah.
speaking, it's like, we have to, I mean, I'm going to probably live the rest
Mm.
of my life in Spain. This is my plan. Like this is where I do want to settle, where I would
Yeah.
see myself like raising kids, all of this. And so, you know, my kids are going to have the history that they have, or, you know, like the background that they have. And like,
They might
it's
face
my
these
responsibility to, you know, like kind of push that, you know, just teaching, educating them on that. And like, that's a trickle effect. Like you said, she's going into school, she's talking to people, she's highlighting things that were from her personal experience. And so it'll get there. It's just going to take some time.
and we need people to have receptive minds.
Yeah. And that's the
Like,
thing. I don't think Spanish people are really like super closed off to the idea, you know?
But they're just like
The
They're just
younger
kind of like
generation,
blase about it, you know?
we hear the engine knocking, but we can endure. We
See,
can, we
they're like,
can
"Yeah,
still
it's
move.
But you can see changes generation by generation, you know.
True.
For example, the generation of like our father's age, like 60, 50, thereabout, how they would, because we can tell you like how they would relate. How they would relate to me as a black man, for example. You know, they make some black jokes.
Yeah.
You know, they might
Because
say some black jokes.
it's a different generation, you know. Like
Exactly,
it's
that's what I'm saying,
we
yeah,
laugh
exactly.
about it, or we like kind of like bully each other, but like in a loving
It's cool,
way.
exactly,
Yes,
in a loving way. And then it come to the younger people. Some of the more, like I would say, a lot of them they don't make these jokes because
In a
now
bad
they're a little
way,
bit more aware that
yeah.
these jokes might be uncomfortable.
I think our
And
generation
then
more than
the next
any.
generation now, because remember Davian, she's an educator. I'm an educator. You were once an educator.
Yeah.
All of us coming together, believe it or not, we've changed the minds or changed different perspectives of kids that we've taught.
So
Honestly.
I see what you're saying. So you're basically saying you don't.
little by
It's a
little.
problem, but there's also a problem of overcorrecting the problem.
Yes.
Like,
Sometimes
you
some
can take out the-
I mean, you have to
Some things just
have
take
those
time.
relationships with them
Yeah.
because, like you said, as an educator in my past, I've definitely like had situations where, like in a class, okay, the kids are doing like a little rhyme or something, and they're making their eyes like this and like saying like something about like
Yeah,
Chinese
yeah,
people
yeah. I
or
tell
whatever,
them,
or
yeah.
saying like, oh, we're watching something and there's like some Korean or Japanese people, and they're like, oh, he, like Gino's, and it's like they're not Chinese, and so I've like stopped the class and I'm like,
Yeah, man.
okay, we're gonna have a little learning moment here because I feel like even though you're young, you still need to be held responsible for something that, you know, like
Yeah.
can be avoided, you know? And so I'm like, hey, okay, these people are not Chinese. If I came here and I called you Portuguese and said it's basically the same thing,
Or
would you
French,
feel,
or French.
yeah, or whatever, would you feel like that's acceptable? Would you feel like you would feel like, hey, no, I'm Spanish. We speak Spanish here. It's the same thing. If you call a Korean or a Japanese person Chinese and say this, and this, a stereotype of Chinese people or Asian people in general, you wouldn't want that if it was in your plate. And so I always use that, like the Portuguese or like the French or the Italian. Like, it's the same thing, no? You have Latin languages. Oh, it's the same thing. You guys are basically the same. And they're like, no, that's not true. And so it's like, okay, well, think about that. Think about that and take it further. And like, you know, maybe they just like, you know, say, oh, okay, fine, you know, but maybe it's something that can stick, or maybe it's something that grows later into an idea where they second guess what the, you know, like saying or whatever. Because here, when I first came here and they started telling me like, yeah, like the little convenience stores, I personally call them alimentaciones because I just feel awkward like saying chino, because I'm like, I don't know if these people are Chinese. I know that the majority of people that own these shops are Chinese, but when I've gone to Granada, I've met people who are Korean and have these shops. Or, you know, you go to Barcelona and it's different people, and it's like, for me, I don't feel comfortable saying this, but I say this to Spanish people and they look at me like I'm they're like,
like,
what?
You're thinking
and
about
like,
this thing too much.
The alimentación, and they're like, ¿qué es eso?
I'm
like, you know, like, hay un alimentación, un sitio a comprar unas cosas, and they're, oh, el chino, and I'm like, okay, but this is not like, that's like, again, a microaggression. It's something that doesn't seem like a big deal, but then you go to Barcelona too, and they're like, the Paki store, or like whatever, like, because they're predominantly like Pakistani or Bengali or, you know, like Indian people that have these types of shops there. But it's like, why are we doing this? Like, why wouldn't we call the shop what the shop is? Like, oh, it's a convenience store. It's a, you know, like una mini tienda, or like, you know, something, a mini supermercado, something. But like, why does it have to be tied to the ethnicity of the people that
I'm not
are working
gonna lie,
there?
you know.
We have the same problem with that.
We have the same
I feel like I heard of this. Like,
yes, we have the same problem in Jamaica.
In Jamaica, every Asian, they have one name, Mr. Chin or Miss Chin.
Or Miss Chong.
Yeah, mostly Chin.
Mostly Chin.
If you go to a wholesale, there are wholesales in Jamaica.
Or Lee.
Yeah, no, but Tony, come on. 99% of the time, you show, Mr. Chin, sell me 2 pounds of flour.
Yes.
Mr. Chin, can you pass?
That's the same problem,
But this is something that I like to like think about as well, because within like communities that are like minority communities, you can't actually have racism, because racism is from an oppressor oppressing someone, and the oppressor is the majority. So like, you know, we as people of color, we cannot technically be racist. Like, I can understand having prejudices.
No, wait.
You know, like if you like, okay, I am an African American woman in the United States and I hate white people. Okay, you hate white people because of the history that is there, because of the history of the oppression. You are reacting to an environment, but you are not racist. The institution is racist. The environment is racist that has pushed you to this reaction and to have these emotions or these feelings about this group of people. But racism is when you have unfounded hatred for someone. Okay, a white person is hating a black person. Why? What have they done to you? Structurally, the system is set up in your favor, blah, blah, blah. It's the power that is the issue here. So like, within these communities that, like, you see, okay, like in America, we have a lot of Latinos that are like racist against like African Americans or whatever. But it's like, you can't technically be racist. You're just perpetuating like prejudices, and that in and of itself is white supremacy, because they have put us against each other.
It's always a battle against each other, man.
And that's like the worst part, because it's like a divisive thing. It's like, okay, exactly, if we have this going on, then they're not going to notice the bigger issue, that is the fact that we have set up a system that is against them, you know, like
I think like we put more sugar in them Coca-Cola and them don't even notice. And these people love Coca-Cola, so make them drink.
No, actually black people is Pepsi.
No,
really?
But
100%. Like, Coca-Cola was marketed to
South America.
South America, Latin America. It's like crazy.
Coca-Cola was for white people first.
Okay.
And then when Pepsi came into the market,
they said we need to tap into this market.
Tap into the black
it's an
market.
Economic thing. It's not like acceptance
Jamaicans
thing.
prefer Pepsi over Coca-Cola.
I didn't know that was a thing.
But you know, Davian, you have to understand, say, this Pepsi and this Coca-Cola, them people are work under the same umbrella in Rasta. So Coca-Cola, so Pepsi was almost like fake competition.
Champagne cola.
It's almost like fake competition, but this fake competition we can bring this kind of people towards here, because we already have this kind of people and make them compete. At the end of the day, the umbrella win.
It's a thing. It's definitely a thing. It's like a divide and conquer. But that's the oldest war play
Yeah,
in
man.
the book.
Yeah,
Divide
man.
and you can conquer. Like that's it. Like if you make people have this issue between them, then they're not focused on the bigger issue that is at play, which you're back here like, okay, I'm gonna do this, this, and this. Yes, that. Like, and so again, like here in Spain, all of that, like the time is going to tell. You know, the time is going to tell as diversity is getting more and more and more here. It's just gonna be harder and harder to accept microaggressions or accept little things that seem so little. Y'all, have you seen those little M&Ms that they have here in Spain?
Yeah, man, the conguitos.
Don't do that. Like literally, that literally is just like, yo.
Yeah, man, with the big, with the big red lips and the big belly
and
and
it's
the,
totally like that's totally like nobody's thinking about it. You know what I mean? And it's like okay, but also conguitos, like this is people of the Congo, like literally, like
the name is Conguitos.
literally, like that's insane. And like
you can't get more literal than that.
and people don't see that as an issue, but then like you see the US, okay, we had Uncle Ben's, like the rice, or Aunt Jemima, the syrup, and like all of this, and it was like we have to get rid of these like tropes, these like, you know, racial stereotypes that are literally in marketing all over, you know, and such like little things like that. And I know like maybe I'm hyper aware because coming from the US, I don't know, when I first got here I was like, wow, it's utopia, and then I was like, wait,
you
like
Abigail,
little by little.
Abigail, I wouldn't say you're hyper aware. I think you just know what's going on. A lot of people, they're not equipped with the same level of knowledge that you have been equipped with,
or experience for that matter.
No,
yeah.
Just the sharing of the knowledge. Remember, these people control what you learn as a kid as well, you know? And even though you say racism was systematic, it's a learned behavior.
Yeah, of course.
You know, I don't believe any kid pops out of the womb and be like, fuck you, you Rasta man.
It doesn't happen.
I don't feel that happen.
Yeah.
So they learn this behavior and they don't learn outside of it. I know what's going on in your country now in America. Department of Education getting
oh my god,
disbanded,
like it's
wanted to be disbanded, like that's gonna have an impact on how people
generations
learn.
to come
On the world.
The books that people are allowed to read in schools.
Yeah.
and that in the like mix of like the internet is still out there too, like that is kind of scary because nowadays too with like artificial intelligence and things like that, I know so many people, like my grandfather, like he thinks that anything that he sees on the internet is real life. You know what I mean? Like it's
man, once you can see it on a picture.
My father,
exactly.
It's a thing, and he's like, oh, that's true. Like he's literally watching YouTube conspiracy theories, and he's like, this is like reporting, like this is journalism, and I'm like, that is not like this is not real. Like
the most we can do to them, do with them is kind of guide them, because we can't educate older people. Just guide them. Just guide them.
But Tony, you're right about that. People don't know what is real and empirical information anymore.
No, there's no analysis. There's no analysis.
There's so much out there. Before, you could use a newspaper as a guide. You could cite a newspaper in a college article, you know, and publish that as well. Nowadays, you can't do that because it's no longer objective.
Yeah.
You know, there's something behind
There's
it.
always a skew nowadays.
When you used to watch the news, you could be like,
bias.
oh,
this is how it is.
This is factual
how it
information. Now,
who
you
knows?
can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
You used to be able to Google something and you get the information that is actually true on your first search. Now you have to read 20 freaking pages and decide,
and then
these are the
we throw in all the other factors of like people's backgrounds and their experiences and all that, and it's just like you can have your own tailored education that is really not an education whatsoever, you know, like it's just like just kind of
a line of thought that you follow,
exactly, and like kind of like over information and like all this stuff, and it's just like oof, that's scary to think about.
And with that, parents have an even more important role to play. First, they need to educate themselves and then educate their children on how to receive information and
analyze the information, not just take it at face value and say this is fine. Critical thinking is such an important thing that I think we're losing sight of with this influx of like the internet and social media and all that. Yeah, because it's just like kids nowadays, sometimes I'm just like, okay, like y'all really just floating through life here, like just like doing it like that, like okay.
Because anything you want to find, if I look up the reason why
ChatGPT does the math homework,
the reason why this glass is actually black, I could probably find someone on the internet saying that this glass is black, you know.
Yeah, man, with a lot of sources behind it.
Yeah.
And people will just buy into that information, and it just becomes the cult.
The big problem, Davy, and the big problem is that when like before they knew that we were going to be introduced with this bombardment, this tidal wave, this tsunami of information, they should have first taught us analytical skills, how to analyze properly,
But the
how to
internet just grew
decipher.
so fast. There was no
it just
control.
grew so fast. There was no preparation for
No
all of this
regulation,
thing.
nothing. It was just like boom.
Like when we were younger, we would learn how to cite things. You know what information you can use, what is
Don't
primary
use
information.
All of
Yeah,
this,
for example, all of these things.
But when
you know,
when
how
did
to
you
decipher.
get those skills, Daniel? When did you? When
Like
the,
No, the thing is, all right. I would say I started to learn these skills. Make we say in like fourth form in Jamaica would be like 10th grade. Like that's when you would like
Middle of high
choose.
school, basically. You know?
Yeah. So that's when you would choose your subjects, and you'd have projects to do with the subjects, and the teachers would tell us that with this project you have to have references and referencing things itself. You have to get information from places, tell where you get it from.
Yeah.
You know, see if it's true, all of this kind of thing. From there on, we learn how to interact with information at that time, or the amount of information that was coming out at that time. But these days, also we didn't have much phones.
Yeah.
These days, the kids, they have the phones.
In the hand, right there.
They have the phones before they reach 10th grade, so they don't know how to analyze this information. So they take everything that they see at face value. This has to be true. I've been seeing it here.
oh, this is on Reddit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the problem is before the kid gets the phone, we should find some way, because the world is moving so fast and kids are learning so fast.
And
teach
they're
them how to
so
analyze.
They're so impressionable. They're so.
Yes.
I mean, a kid's like mind is a blank slate to some extent, you know. And so it's like it's really important to take these steps so that our next generation is growing up informed, is growing up with the idea that hey, you know, we can take steps to change things that are maybe in need of change, or to continue to advance, and we won't just reach like this like stagnant state. You know, like where it's like we're really not going forward, we're kind of going backwards. True. And what have we done? I mean, people have like fought so hard to like, you know, like for us to reach a state that we have reached, and now it's just like, for example, in the US, we're just going backwards. Like it's like we had so much potential to improve, and now it just seems like almost impossible. Like it's nothing's ever impossible, but it seems so like without hope at this point. It just seems like so debilitating to think about the process that's going to be necessary to right these situations and continue forward.
That's another problem though. The problem where you're just seeing so much negativity, you don't see the light at the end of it. You know? You
just feel overwhelmed. Like
you get bombarded by it. You're like, oh, fuck this world. It's gone to shit anyway. What am I going to do?
Yeah, what's the point?
What can I do? I'm a small grain in all of this. What can I do?
That's, and that in itself.
And that's the dangerous thinking, because then again, this seems like kind of like something like planned or pushed on you, because it's like if everyone's feeling like that and everybody's thinking that, then we're not coming together. We're not making these steps. We're not making any changes. We're just like, this is how it is. Yeah. And we're just going to suffer. Yes.
And it lulls the population and make it become lazy and just like
and
stagnant in like a little matrix where we don't do anything. Gone are the days where there would be problems and people would be in the streets to take it on. Nowadays people are like, oh, I'll just
people
post
do it, but
on...
exactly, I was about to say it's more for the reception of it, like I'm doing this or I'm doing that or whatever shit. Like back in the day, people were literally like fighting for something, like, and almost to the death, you know, like they're like, this is what I believe and I have to do this because if not, there is no other option for me. Now it's like soft like the protest culture that we have is very strong, but it's very soft, you know. Back in the day we were having revolutions, not just like protest, you know. I
will disagree with you on that. It is not strong. It is lazy.
It's a strong idea, you know. Like it's like we have to
protest.
The protest, the kind of protest.
But before you can, I don't get it. Protest is the first step of expressing your growth, you know.
But Tony, I'm saying the way that we're protesting nowadays, posting a fucking tweet or something and share something to your story, that's a waste of time.
No, it's not in another vein. It creates awareness.
Wait, no.
Awareness is important.
Wait, no.
Yes.
Create awareness. But it doesn't have impact anymore.
You mean that
I see a freaking how many Congo stories you see? To be honest,
no. Listen.
I tap off them. I tap off them and move to the next one because I'm on social media. Not for that reason.
Yeah.
I'm on social media for what reason? To get a dopamine hit, a happiness, and then come off.
A few likes
And now it's
go.
like a whole different
Exactly.
arena basically.
Exactly. So people don't go on there don't go on their phone and go on Instagram to freaking go for a protest or
So you're saying that it should not be the end point.
no.
That's what you're saying.
It
Yes.
should
No,
just
you
be the
crazy?
grain of beginning, but then we actually have to like perpetuate the action. Like
Exactly.
make
That's
the
what
action
it should
happen.
not. It should not only be the end point.
Exactly. To organize, to like you said, raise awareness, to express, but at the same time, it's like you can't just leave it at that. You have to
Exactly.
take
You
the
have to
steps
do
to
some
keep
action
going,
behind
to push
it.
further.
All right. Say for instance, somebody will reshare. They will reshare. Let's say somebody make a post about free the Congo. Reshare that. Get 1 million reshare. Okay.
What happens in the
let's
Congo?
let's 1 million reshares. Let's go in the streets tomorrow with some signs. 100 people show up out of 1 million people that reshare that, bro.
Actually,
is that effective?
Same.
It's just like, let me tell you, this thing has been happening a long time, It's almost like Mr. Farrakhan. You remember the Million Man March?
Yes, but Tony, people used to get off their horses and do it. People used to say,
man.
fuck work today, I'm going out in the street. I can't see my brothers in the street
something.
dying.
Yeah.
And I'm going to work like this, bro.
The problem is priorities. We have become so, as you say, it's not about.
We don't have a personal
It's my
connection
sister
to it.
of the
Yeah,
problem.
yeah. See.
My sister of the problem. Make she deal with her problem. Me have my own problems over here, so.
Yeah.
Why am I gonna try to get more problems with my problems?
Nah, bro.
It's just so much problems.
We're very individual.
Individual. Instead of saying my sister today, it might be my kids tomorrow. It might be me
Or
tomorrow.
It doesn't even matter.
It
could
might knock at my door
it's just
tonight.
bad, it's like
It's
that's
just
just
bad.
not right, and it's like, but we do feel that need to like justify it to ourselves, kind of to have that personal connection to it. To
Yes.
say, oh, this would affect me, or it could affect me at some point. But it's like,
But we don't.
if it affects you or not, what is right, and what's wrong is wrong. So
Yeah.
you have to be like able to say, hey, I'm going to be a part of changing the issue and not just be passive, because being passive is just as bad as being someone who is
Silence is consent.
perpetrating the issue.
I think they're more than passive. I think they're impotent.
Yeah.
They're fucking
I mean, because like we
impotent
said,
to
we
it.
just feel overwhelmed. There's so much shit happening in the world today that is so fucked up. And it's literally just like, where do we start? How can I organize my mind to even process these atrocities that are happening and be able to make the next step to stop them? You feel so
wait,
like you said,
you're
impotent.
you're waiting for a breaking point then? You're waiting for the world to break first? Is that what
We
we're
don't.
doing?
No. We don't know, Davian. Me
Is
and
that
you
what
don't know
is that
because
what we're doing, bro?
let me show you something, Davian. I can name 10 of my problems.
Yeah.
You can name 10 of your problems, and if you try to find solutions for all of them, before you finish naming these 10, you see another one coming at you from the news. You see another one coming at you next week, another policy that they
But
might
what you do,
implement.
Tony, you pick your battles, bro.
True.
Pick a cause. People have no excuse to just live on this planet just to live. This come back to the whole kids thing as well.
Yeah.
The whole selfishness of it. Like, you just want to be me. Hi.
I wanna.
My happiness
it's a
is
generational
my everything.
thing,
I
yeah.
need to be happy before I can make anyone else happy.
But
That's
if we
all
think
good
about
and
it,
true.
why have we reached that point? Because historically speaking, happiness was like on the back burner. You were on survival mode. So it's literally like we came into this like modern world and we're like, being happy, like mental health, these are like factors of like a healthy life or like successful life and not just surviving. So it was like a shift, but then it was like it kind of got out of hand.
But it's a double whammy then. Because your unhappiness is a consequence of these fucking systems that you're not trying to change. And you're sitting on your ass watching 2 hours on Netflix a day.
Yeah.
Make we put yourself, for example. Make we say we in Jamaica. Right? You really can put your happiness over how you eat food and sleep good at night.
Tony, but that's why we said we need people to make those sacrifices. We need to. I'm not saying I'm doing it, but I know that. I look in the fucking mirror and I say, yo, Davian, say, yo, it's a big waste man for now to do more in that world, dog. You think? Do you think that? Wait. Sorry.
No.
Do you think I want to only use this podcast as a means of just? Oh, we talk about the issues every day. I want to get to the point where we have a fan base. Yeah, where we have a fan base and we say, yo, we have 1 million subscribers now. I need at least 10% of you to turn out for this event to do this thing and protest this thing,
So you want to be
make an impact.
No, bro. Tony,
impactful.
Why the fuck am I sorry for that. We should actually
Family podcast, David. Family podcast.
Actually affects our ads as well. Why the fuck would I want to be on this world and then I die at 65, 70 and my kids are left in this world
In the same struggle.
and I haven't done anything?
Yeah.
Me feel the
all
same way,
all I did was just go to work, take care of my kids, ensure that they were fed, and then
Come
leave,
every Saturday, record an episode and sleep at night.
and then be like, oh, Devane shagged this girl, he went to this country, he did this, he had
did
all
this,
this
he
fun,
did
he
this,
lived
yeah.
this full life. Fuck no, that's not a full life.
Because what impact at the end of the day?
That's not a full life.
But
That's
it's also
that's
like
a life. But
it is your like it's your right as well, you know, like
That's
is
what them
your
tell you,
right,
that's what them tell you, that's what
but
them
it's
tell you,
like
right.
at the end of the day, it's all down to like your personal like value of saying like, okay, do I feel like I would have like I would feel fulfilled at the end, you know, like would I feel like
Exactly.
I'm in my deathbed and say, hey, you know, like I did
Depends
my
upon
best,
you.
like, you know, like that was
No,
fine, you know, or like, could you say
Whatever.
I could have done more? Obviously, everyone could say that, but like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, but it's like, it's difficult. It's a difficult
Let's try it again.
thing. See, you're like,
God.
but no, we don't get another round, so that's the problem, you know.
and I think people have just become so happy with just
Yo,
going on this like
I
smooth
think, yo,
journey
dog, you
through
know,
life.
let's share something very personal, dog. Like, I feel as if, dog, I not even joke this man to the feel. I feel as if I can't go Zion until me help. And until me do everything what I feel like me can do in my powers to help the situation get even a little better. Or to get better
Okay, but
for the
one
next
question.
generation. Yeah, I really feel like me can't go Zion until that happens.
So
Yeah.
Like,
think about this though. If you think that the things that you're doing, like as an educator, and you're, you know, like every time you see something that you feel like you have to say something about, and like maybe make that a learning point, or like, you know, stop and say, hey, this is something that we can like, you know,
Yeah.
educate the children on. Is that enough? Like, if that is what you can do in the realm of your life and your path, and right now, and that's the access that you have. I feel like that is impactful, you know. Like I feel
As
like
in-
that
as in-
is
as in- wait, wait,
valuable,
as in, like,
you know,
I feel-
I
like,
respect that.
I feel
Every step you take, every child mind you change.
is another step. You
Is
know,
another step. You're doing something,
in the
bro.
bigger.
But
path,
hold on,
you know?
hold on. I feel like that is the most I can do at this point in time, March 2025.
Yes.
Because I don't know about you guys, but I don't plan to stay at the same
Exactly.
level as
So
steps.
as you go,
so
as
I
you
go,
you
as I
can
go
increase
along,
the impact, see.
exactly.
Yeah,
That is what I'm saying.
But that is
You
the
want to
thing.
evolve.
Most of the time,
Yes.
as you evolve and as you
Yes.
increase, you start getting more and more disconnected, because the
And
more
that is why you should-
personal successes that you achieve, or like the more growth that you have, whatever, maybe it becomes even more self-centered in an aspect. You know, like you say, like, oh, I'm successful, like I'm doing, oh, this podcast has grown to, you know, like super big, we have it, and then you kind of lose sight of like, oh, I had these ideas that like this was important to me, or this
That's
was
why-
important
that's why-
to me.
That's
Because
I'm
now
scared of
wrapped
that.
up
That's
in
why-
I'm scared
this.
of that.
You have to stay grounded, man. You have to know if you stay grounded. And you have to know who you is before you go
Always
where
stay
you're
grounded.
going and know where you have come from.
Yeah.
But Tony, you
Yeah.
can say that now. But to be honest, I'm scared of that, bro.
So write yourself a letter
It's-
and say,
what-
hey,
what exactly you're
this
scared
is where
of
I
that
am now, and this is where
the
I
passion
need
I
to.
have
Very
and the
true.
things I want to change in the world.
Yeah.
I'm scared of losing that.
Don't
You know what I'm
You know,
saying?
like, as
good.
as
You know what I'm
progress.
saying?
Okay, yeah. But
You
don't be
lose
scared of
this-
your ambition, though.
No,
Don't be scared of it.
I'm always going to be ambitious.
Yeah.
But the person I am on this date today, I want to keep some of this fire and energy going forward.
Yeah, man.
Even though when we get bigger and we can make bigger changes.
Get more
I don't-
desensitized.
It's like most politicians go into politics. They were there for a good cause first, you know. I would give them the benefit of the doubt, you know. But
Yeah.
they get lost in the system.
Yeah, man.
The fire
Lost
get
in the
put
sauce, yeah.
This is true.
The fire get put out and then they forget
It's a
what they
pattern.
fight
Like
for.
we talked about human nature. It's just like sometimes those things happen. But I think you can be kind of like, you can kind of set yourself up in a way that like as you set goals, and as you reach those goals, you can also have something that is in combination to those goals. Okay, now that I'm at this point, at this stage, what are the things, the impact that I want to make?
True.
Okay, the next level as I go up. These are the goals. Okay, I've reached this. I'm at this level now. What is the impact that I want to do with this new level that I have reached, you know? So like, it's just being cognizant, and like you said, like kind of like just trying to know yourself, you know, be alert or aware of like, okay, this can happen. It's something that we know could happen. So just trying to stay on top of that, like you know. I don't have very lofty like life goals, you know. I'm like I want to, you know, like be comfortable, have my family, blah blah blah, but at the same time it's like I think that definitely the small impact that I think I would be able to make, I will commit myself fully to making, you know, like even if I'm not going, I don't have any like, you know, ideas of grandeur or like something like this, but at least I know with my kids, I'm going to be like, hey, we're on top of this, guys. And like, I'm not going to let you go out into the world, you know, like be blindsided by like all of the stuff that like, no, we're going to try to take the steps to make sure that you're aware of situations that perhaps even here in Spain are not even being noticed, but it's important for you and for, you know, the next generation to be aware of these things. So like if I make that a priority, I feel like, okay, that's my step, you know, like, and so that's an impact enough for me, you know. And but again, it's down to the person, it's the personal, you know, like whatever goals that you have, it's all different, you know.
Yeah, but remember, your goals and your whole value system is influenced by the society as well. So if we had 1 million more of you with that mindset, the world would be a better place. But we also need to create 1 million more of you.
And it's like it's interesting.
You know?
It's
I know.
interesting.
It's like, yes, I could adopt your perspective, which is a beautiful one. Like I respect that. Like I feel people should have their family and hold them to certain
A standard,
as well. And if that is there, then other families will be held to the same standards, and it trickles down. But there is a bigger fight that is fighting against those family values that you're talking about. There's
but you
a
find
system
like-minded people. You find like-minded people. Like, okay, we're having this conversation here today, and it's like, oh, okay, we're vibing. We're like having this point or this point or this point. It's like as you come into contact with more people, and you're like, wow, okay, I'm not alone out here. It is a bigger thing, you know. Like there are more people with this type of like grains of ideas, maybe smaller, maybe bigger than even I have them. You know, like, and it's like finding those like-minded people and kind of having that come to, for lack of a better, come to Jesus meeting of saying like, hey, okay, there's more to do as a group and like to continue, you know, like, and it's just like, oh, okay, we're here in Spain. Who would have thought that we would all be here?
True.
You know, like, it's like we're doing something so different than, you know, like maybe our parents have done or like people that we know have done. And it's like, oh, but we're finding like-minded ideas, or we're able to, you know, like have ideas that are for the advancement of a whole, you know. And it's just like we're in a really different environment than we ever imagined to be, so we have different like obstacles. You know, living here in Spain is going to be a whole different ball game than living in Jamaica or living in America long term, and saying like, oh, this is the structure, or this is the structure, and this is what we have to like work against or work with or whatever. But we're doing it.
We're trying.
I just hope our feet don't fail us along the way.
I mean, you guys are doing a Jamaican podcast in Spain, and like you're talking about these things, and this is like, okay, that's the thing, you know, like in and of itself, it's like our life experiences have brought us here, and we're on some sort of path that is like to the advancement of like something, you know. Like,
but then you have people that don't even see the world like that, and those are the ones I want to get to. Those are the ones that I want to listen to.
But it's so hard. It's so hard. I think that you can never really change anyone's mind. You can only give them more information that facilitates them changing their own mind or educating themselves in a different way. I don't think you can convince someone of anything ever. Like,
but
you mean they have to be receptive and open.
You can plant the seed, but they have to water that seed.
They have to say, this is what I think now.
Tony, just like how they have we can change the collective ideology, the cultural ideologies that we share.
Like we were talking about before.
Let's switch it from this individualistic thing and push it towards a more collective thing. That is what works, especially in white supremacy, you know. The entire nationalism, you know.
You never look past the Arabs, for example, or the Americans,
That is what works. But then, what if we just eliminate race from the equation a little bit?
And just become concerned citizens
of the world.
This is
not
true.
just a black man or a white woman.
Community is so important, and it is something that we have lost through modernization and globalization. Used to be, like you said, in the old days, you were a community. You were a group. You know, like nowadays, we know so many people through social media or this and that. Our human brains are literally set up to know like 100 people, like faces or whatever. Like that's the scientific like explanation of like, you know, like community and all this in the beginning. And now it's like, oh, I have 1,000 friends on Instagram. I have 2,000 friends on Twitter. I have this and this. And you're
you
like,
know, this thing kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's just you're thinking and seeing so many people's lives at every given moment that you're literally like, wow, I'm inundated. Like,
Yo,
I don't even know what to think. Like, it's too much.
I don't know about you guys, but I remember the first time I sat and thought about it, and I was like, wow, I know 20 people.
Yeah. Like, actually.
Actually, no, 20 people. If I walk here, I might see one of the 20.
Yeah.
If I go there at home, I might see another. You know,
That's all like it come after a spliff. That's all like it come after a spliff.
Like,
That's all like it come after a spliff.
like, literally.
No, but for real, Davian, outside of your family, knowing 20 people when you were younger, a whole heap of people, that's a lot of people.
But now multiply that by 1,000.
And we see,
we're literally like,
we see this every day, you know. We there's, you know, okay, Daniela is
I
doing
know
this.
this person.
Abigail is doing this, okay.
And I know this person, but
Mark
do you
is doing
really
it.
know those people?
You know, yes.
Yes and no. You can feel like you do, but at the crux of the it's like you don't. And so it's just like, wow, the sense of community is so lost. We're so like, we feel like we have a sense of community like so like worldwide or whatever, like when you have like these social media connections and things like that. And I'm not saying that that's not, because I have had so many good friends that like now that's the way that I keep in touch with them, or like the way that I do see their lives and what they are doing and all of this. And so it is a manner of maintaining relationships, but I really think we need to focus on like your true community and the people that you have near you, and really invest in that, like invest in those relationships, because nowadays, I mean, you go out with your friends and like half of the time you're checking something on social media to see like what's going on somewhere else. And you're literally like, you're with your friends, you're at a bar, you're at a restaurant, whatever, but you still have that peak of interest to see like what else is going on. And it's like, you're not investing, you're not here, you're not literally feeding into the relationships that are really here. The people that you would interact with on a day-to-day basis is the community that's around you, not all of this. We live away from our families though, so this is an aspect, a factor as well. But
we need more
for
discipline.
that. But at the same time, it's like there are some things that we can invest in, like where you are, being present and building more of a community, and where you have chosen to be. You know, like your family is somewhere else, you do need these like aspects. Okay, I need Facebook Messenger to call my grandmother. You know, I need Instagram to see what my sisters are up to. You know, all of that.
To keep up with the pace sometimes.
It's not the tool.
But I do need to invest in my life and like where I've chosen to be, and building a community here, like having, you know, like that sense of support, or having that sense of like, oh, I have a community of like-minded people that I can interact with and like, you know, move forward with. So
it's not the tool, it's the use of the tool.
Exactly.
See? Yeah.
Because we misuse social media so much.
100%. I think we'll be here like 2 hours talking.
Yeah.
For real.
And would you believe it? I'm hungover.
No, we couldn't.
Conversation is the fuel, man.
Yeah, no, to be honest, like a lot of my thoughts in this, I was like, oh, I thought something else, and you just didn't cover. I was like, shit, I didn't.
Oh my God.
All right, Tony, your child.
I wanted to add a song to our playlist, Abigail. Can you add a song to our playlist this week?
Okay.
A song that might have a special meaning to you, a song that maybe it's just a song that you've been vibing to all this week.
Okay.
Some you might not be able to get out of your head.
I'm going to look really quickly because I always do my little liked list or whatever. See? And what I've liked recently. Not Money Pull Up was the one.
Oh, Money Pull Up.
Let's see.
And guys, if you haven't, please like, share, and subscribe. Now is the moment.
Yeah.
See.
No, you tell them. They won't
Okay.
listen to us. No, about the like, share.
Yeah, tell them like,
they
share.
They never listen to us.
Okay.
They don't listen to us.
We say like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah. Thank you. Abigail said it, so you have to do it.
That's the truth. Song wise, I was looking at Money Pull Up because I was talking to you guys about the next passion fruit. But one that has really been like on repeat for me a lot is called Cali by Branbell. He's like a Colombian rapper from I believe Cali. But it's really nice. It's like some kind of like soft vibes, but it's very vibey.
Is he the producer that all his tracks get the same name? He just like session 1, session 2?
No, that is what name again? I know this guy. That do it
I think
Shakira, we're doing.
Yeah, you just call
No,
him
that's not
volume
him.
something.
Bizarrap, no?
Bizarrap, yeah,
Bizarrap.
No,
That's
no.
Bizarrap.
This guy, he's kind of small. Like, I don't even think he has like a super, like big monthly like listening following and all of this. But I like his music. It's in Spanish as well. But I like it because it's like he has a lot. Like his whole album has a very like cohesive sound to it. So it's like several different songs, but they all seem like they could be like one never-ending song, so like you put the album on and it's like kind of like, okay, it's just like a vibe.
The album has the
that
same
state.
soul. It has the
Exactly.
same soul.
Yeah. And he has a nice like voice. I like it. It sounds nice. Yeah.
All right. So say the name of the song again.
Kali by Bran Bell.
Brian Bell.
And I have 2 songs this week. A song by Joy Crooks called Feet Don't Fail Me Now.
I like
Right.
shoes. Yeah.
You know Joy Crooks? You know Joy Crooks? Okay, good.
Like mine did.
And
My mom and my stepdad were DJs when I was younger. Like my stepdad is still a DJ now. But
So you know about-
had a lot of
yeah.
like influence, like just like different music and stuff like this.
so that's my first song because I don't know, since this week I've been listening to that song a lot. It kind of mean a lot to me. The message, feet don't fail me now. I'm almost there, I'm going every day. Sometimes our feet fail us and we just have enough to pick up ourselves.
Yeah.
And the next song is kind of related, the next song is called Etc. by Steam Down Fish featuring Afronaut Sue. Etc. is saying like, the same thing might be happening to your life, might become a bit monotonous. So like another thing come and it's like another thing,
You're in that
etc.,
that cycle
etc.,
of, like
etc.
day-to-day life, like
Yeah,
and it can
but
be, like nothing's happening.
yeah, but don't let it get you down. Always find power in things that happen to you. Always try to overcome these experiences. And Davian, you want to leave us with any inspiring words for this week's episode?
Inspiring.
Family podcast, Davian.
No, to be honest, like when I check the stats, I'll be like, David,
You did it again.
You're the reason why we're not getting more ad revenue. Jesus, stop it.
Yes.
Words today, I think the topic was very much a serious one. I think people need to do more. I'm gonna put the pastor mantle on you to do something good this week.
Yeah, man.
Do something to change something in someone's life that's not you.
Yeah, man.
Make that a point of duty. Don't be impotent. Get off your ass and do something good this week.
Yeah, man.
And
Do
this
good and do good. Do good and good will follow you.
Yeah,
And just
man.
because it's good to do good, not because you want to receive something.
That is true.
Not because,
That is true.
just do it because it's a step
just what
forward
you're
in the right
supposed to do.
direction. Like
Yes.
I think
Yeah,
that's
man.
super important.
Something good, please. Get off your ass.
And as we say, you're the Yardman Podcast. We're out. Yardman Podcast are the one. The Yardman Podcast. Tell you about the Yardman Podcast. The Yardman Podcast. Tell you about the Yardman Podcast. The Yardman Podcast. Tell you about the Yardman Podcast. The Yardman Podcast. Tell you about the Yardman Podcast.
Subscribe now. We out.